Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your weekly home for sports news, video game reviews, and hot takes with your hosts, Brandon, Zach, and Justin. Enjoy the show.
What is up? Welcome to the Nest Podcast. We're doing a special episode today with Garth. If you're a longtime listener, you know Garth. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just hanging out, playing some video games.
Yep. Quarantine life.
Right.
Yeah. So today we're talking about PlayStation 4's last exclusive, Ghost of Tsushima. And for those who haven't played the game, I can give a little synopsis real quick. You play as Jin Sakai, and you're a samurai in the 1200s, somewhere around then, during the Mongol invasion of Japan. And game is set on the island of Tsushima. You are the nephew of Lord Shimura, and a Khan comes and invades the island and takes your uncle captive, and you have to flee, and basically you have to essentially build your forces back up to try to set your uncle free and obviously defeat the Mongols. And the samurai way of fighting is with honor and face to face, and that's not really working against the Mongols because Jin is so outnumbered. So he has to kind of channel his inner dark side and do some things that are not necessarily up to samurai code. And throughout the game, you can choose if you'd like to fight face to face the samurai way, or if you'd like to use more ghost tactics. And so far, I've really enjoyed the game. It's really fun. The combat is not so hard that it makes it unenjoyable, but it's also not so easy that it makes it just mundane. And Garth, I know you're a little bit farther ahead of me. What are your first impressions of the game?
First off, it's the style of play is very open world. I love those types of games, but it's like Red Dead Redemption a lot. But there's a lot less minutia, which I really like. I don't really feel like feeding myself, and then I don't feel like having to cook the food that I feed myself or take care of my horse, or so it gets rid of a lot of that, and it gets you more into the action. So I think the gameplay is fairly fast paced. So for me, I guess Red Dead Redemption maybe mixed with some God of War.
Really?
Yeah, just with the immense weapon selection, especially, I don't know what happens in Act 3. I'm not there yet. In Act 2, you get more weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, you were talking about Act 1. I like it. I like the story on it quite a bit. I generally try and do 100% on most things. So I'll do the main story that gets me items that I may want, like a grappling hook, things like that. But I really focus on the side missions, and I think that's where the best stories are, really.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing that this game just absolutely nails. I think that the storyline is very intriguing, and I want to know what actually happens. The characters have some depth to them, and I think the voice acting and the acting in general is just very well done. It seems very true to the time, where he has this sensei friend that has a dojo and stuff like that. And there's just different little characters that seem true to life that I really enjoy. It's interesting that you compared it to God of War. I kind of compare it more to an Assassin's Creed type game.
I haven't played many. I haven't played one since the original.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So I can't agree or disagree. I assume you're probably correct, though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of course they're all open world now and everything like that, but it's story driven and mission obviously driven. I think the exploration of the world itself is less than Red Dead Redemption. I think it's really fun in Red Dead to just explore the world and go look at a river that's near you. And for some reason in this game, I find myself wanting to find out what's going to happen next in the story rather than exploring the world. And don't get me wrong, the world is gorgeous. That the graphics
Right.
are
Yeah.
beautiful. But for some reason, I don't want to just go see what's behind the hill over wherever. I want to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah. You know, the exploration. Yeah, we talked through text. I like that I can fast travel immediately. I don't have to jump through hoops like you do in most games. You have to earn something, and generally, it's like 2/3 of the way through the game, at least half before you can start fast traveling, and that's kind of a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah.
So I like that. I There is exploration because there's all these undiscovered locations, but I don't have to travel far. Like I said before, the horse, I've used it a little more now, but really for me in Act 1, the horse was somewhat pointless because I could fast travel somewhere within 500 meters of my objective and
Yeah.
just run. And, doing that, you would pick up bamboo or wood or flowers, any supplies kind of stuff. I just picked that up on the way.
Right.
It seemed to work out. The horse, like I said, the horse I could take or leave in this game. It's cool. I like that they didn't put much time in it though, because it's not as big a tool as it was in, let's say, Red Dead Redemption. And I just reference that a lot because I played it recently too.
No, yeah, and that's basically the only other game that's like that, where you don't have modern day things to control. You have a horse and you have your legs, and that's how both of those kind of games are. And I tend to agree. I like that it's combat driven and it's storyline driven. The secondary things are much less than like a Red Dead type of game, and I kind of get that. That makes a lot of sense to me because you're not playing this game to ride a horse and to pet a horse and to feed it and to do whatever. You're playing the game to live like a samurai. And from all the movies and stuff like that, samurais fight and kill people. So that's really what draws you to this game. And I think the combat is really well done. And I was just telling Brandon this. The combat isn't so hard that it makes the game unenjoyable, but it's also not so easy that it just is mundane and boring.
No, one thing I like, especially like let's take something you do a lot, for example, freeing a village or a farmstead. You and I could play the exact same game and approach it completely differently.
Yeah.
From reading articles, some people like to just walk in and do a standoff and just hack them up.
Yep.
Me, I like that. Now that there is a piece of armor that you get that is good for standoff ability.
Oh, nice.
So I've been doing that a lot lately because I can kill 5 people in a row.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to touch on the standoffs. We've got a clip of one here. Basically, you trigger this when you come up on some enemies, and you hold the triangle button, and you let it go as soon as he comes at you. And this is a super great way to take out one enemy with great ease, and then you go on, of course, to fight everyone else. And you can level up this ability to kill more than one enemy with a single standoff. And if you're going to choose the samurai style of combat, this is a great way to almost instantly take out one enemy. And I thought this was a very good element that they put in, because it seems like it's an actual event that would take place between a samurai and an enemy, as they would square off and say, you know what, whoever's the better man is going to win. And I love that aspect of the combat.
It's unique, something you don't really, get too much. In Westerns, you tend to have like a quick draw feature per se. And this is their answer to that, I would say. I like the standoff feature. It is one of my favorite parts of the combat, especially when you can string them together up to, at least for right now, 5 in a row. So you can generally take out a small raiding party all at once.
Yeah, and it makes really quick work of the enemies.
Right. And it's I can't stress how beautiful those scenes are.
Yes.
So And like you say, getting to the combat, if you were to see all the screens and stuff surrounding the combat, you would think it's incredibly difficult, but it's really not. It's two buttons, light attack, heavy attack, and really variations on that and dodging. That's it.
Yeah.
I've found that I can switch my stances with real ease.
Oh yeah, they made it very intuitive, which is another nice thing. A lot of times, games will put in a skill or a feature that is so difficult to use that you just don't even think about it. But these different stances that you have that work with different enemies are really intuitive. Like for example, a certain stance works good against a swordsman, and another stance works good against a man with a shield. And it's really easy to switch back and forth, and it definitely pays off to actually do that.
For sure. If you're fighting a spearman, that what is it? The wind stance, I believe, that is invaluable. It's pretty hard to defeat them otherwise.
Yeah, you have to dodge every single one of their attacks, basically.
Yeah,
and I like that the combat is intuitive enough to you can excel at it. But if you do screw up, they're not just going to let you off. You're going to get punished.
Right. The one thing you haven't quite gotten to, you've done a few duels.
Yeah.
For one, the animation in all of the duels is fantastic. I love the opening scene where you had for every duel there's an opening scene that shows the opponents, but then it's getting ready to start when it focuses on the hilt of your sword, your scabbard, and he just takes his thumb and pops the sword out, and at that moment the duel starts. Those are fun. You can't use any of your ghost weapons. It's just melee. So, right. If you're watching, what you'll see here is Brandon is showing one of your Straw Hat Ronin duels you'll do in Act 2.
Oh, nice.
So
this is like a larger version of a standoff, almost, without the immediate death of your opponent.
Right, and they're almost boss-like. They've got their own health bars. You fight them exclusively with the swordsman stance. I can't remember what that one's called. Wood, maybe.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, so you'll see here, he just clicks his blade out, and boom, that's it.
that is awesome. Yeah, that to me just screams old samurai style movie. And obviously, this game is very much just they derive almost all of their stuff from the old samurai movies, to the point where you can even choose to have the game in black and white. You can choose to have it dubbed in Japanese and with English subtitles. So you can really get immersed in that world of samurai, old school movie, stuff like that, which I think is a very small market, if you will. But I think the people that like that kind of thing are very into it. And I think that they eat this up. I mean, granted, I love this game, and I'm not even necessarily a big samurai fan. I can only imagine the people that are super into the samurai stuff.
Yeah, it's based. The storyline is at least supposed to be based on some Akira Kurosawa stuff, or it's at least modeled after Akira Kurosawa. I think isn't even the black and white thing, isn't it called like Kurosawa cinematic
something like
mode?
That.
Something. Yeah, there's a nod to him, and personally, I do the Japanese dialogue with English subtitles.
Do you?
Yeah, I like it. It adds a little bit of authenticity, maybe.
Sure.
But I'm the kind of guy that'll watch subtitles on about anything, especially if I want to really get the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like a movie. I can say the girlfriend likes to watch me play it.
Right.
Because it is incredibly gorgeous. Can't really say that enough. The use of colors.
Oh, yeah.
And really the use of wind, which we haven't talked about. That's ingenious, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you don't know what we're talking about, on the map, there's no real compass, and you don't have a compass on your display. So the way you find out where you're going is it's called the guiding wind, and you just look which way the wind's blowing. If it's not blowing, you just swipe on your little touchpad and the wind blows and you just go that way. I've never seen anything similar to it.
No,
And
neither have I.
it's incredibly intuitive, and I like that it frees up space on my screen, that I don't have to, worry about much directionality.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely makes the game more immersive too, because instead of following a yellow line that's trailing off into the distance, you just have wind, and that looks natural. And that was such a creative way to show players where to go, was just by the wind, and of course leaves kick up and everything like that that kind of trail off, and you can follow those too. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Um, the game does a very good job of not telling you that you're in a game. Obviously, you are, but with certain games, you clearly know that it's just a game. But in this one, you can really immerse yourself in the world, and I love that. And especially with this kind of game, I think that's necessary, because if it were just a standard Red Dead Redemption 2 style game, I think it would have just kind of fell through the cracks. But it definitely cut its own notch in the path of video game making. And coming from a small developer like they are, they knocked this one out of the park. The only other game from Sucker Punch that I know of is the Infamous series. And for them to do this kind of game, I mean, this is AAA stuff, and they really killed it.
Oh yeah, it's a great game. It's not going to be as polished as something from Rockstar, or even somebody like Blizzard.
Sure.
Any of the big ones. It's not going to be as polished, but graphically, it stands up to them. I can say, we'll get to some of the things we maybe don't like later, but there's a few gameplay things I think could use a little tweaking, but overall, it's incredibly solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the things that we don't necessarily like, we can get into that here. One thing that struck me that I didn't like at all is that they never really told you how you upgrade your gear. And I was going around collecting all that stuff, and we texted about it. I thought you had to craft, and I thought you would somehow create things out of the stuff that you picked up, but you just turn it into one of the merchants and you buy stuff with it. And it's kind of weird that that's the way you do that. Like, I have to go collect bamboo and then give it to this guy so that he can upgrade my armor set. I don't necessarily like the way that aspect of the game was done. I think it would be better if you either just sold stuff or some other way of doing it. But I guess that's how they kind of separated. You have to get bamboo for this, and you have to get whatever else for other pieces of equipment, so that it's not just all general. But I'm not a huge fan of that system.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying I want to craft. I think that's what they did to get out of the crafting, but they varied up the things you have to collect a little more to make it interesting, and you have to go to somebody for your armor, somebody different for your bow, and so I dig that aspect, that there is no crafting. But one thing I have found, and like I said, I do try and play to get 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So
Justin says, is that similar to the Fable series? I would say no. I'd say the Fable series is RPG like, and this doesn't really have very many RPG elements. I think, to me personally, this is most like a mash between Red Dead Redemption and Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a fair assessment. I loved the Fable series, but it's quite a bit different. Storytelling's great in Fable, so it has that, and it's open world.
Yeah.
And now the commerce is a little more similar to Fable than I would say others.
Yeah.
But one thing I was getting at is, I have so much bamboo right now, and I've upgraded my two bows, and I just don't know what to do with all this. I can sell it and get supplies.
Yep.
fairly soon supplies are going to be obsolete for me once I've got most everything upgraded. Uh, I did screw up and sell I had like 60 predator hides and sold them because I thought I had everything. And then turns out you get more stuff in Act 2. So don't you get some really awesome stuff. You get some blow darts.
Oh, nice.
And those are awesome, but hard to replenish. You do have to find the flowers, and I think once you find the flowers, then you technically have the darts. You don't have to craft the darts, but
Sure.
but you cannot go buy those.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do with this surplus of crap now, and I'm scared to sell it till I get a little further along.
I would imagine that in Act 3 they're going to introduce something new for you to work towards, and that's something that I like. I like that they give you bits and pieces of upgradable stuff, and you get to work with that. And then once you move forward, you get a new set of whatever it might be, and then you just start working with that. So it's not just like, here's the game, find all the stuff and just go for it. It's kind of incrementally unlocked for you, if you will. And I like that a lot, especially with like the stances. You have to kill leaders to gain points or whatever you want to call it towards the new stances. And it's incrementally given to you so that you can get a grasp on all the new things that you have and all the tools that you have so that you can use them instead of just have the thing and not even know what it does and never use it.
Right. Most every tool or technique that you unlock or get is really handy.
Oh yeah.
There's not really a tool in this whole arsenal where I'm like, nah, maybe the flaming arrow, but it still has its place.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially when I first unlocked that, it was really great to have because you could light the grass on fire and take out multiple enemies or prevent them from being in that spot. And I totally agree. I think every little tool has its place, and of course you have the samurai side of the house and the ghost side, and the ghost has like smoke bombs and the kunai knives and stuff like that you throw, and everything is very useful.
Yeah, the kunai are my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I've really structured my fighting character. That's something else I'll get into about outfits that I think could be done better. But excuse me, as far as the kunai, I've got all sorts of buffs. I've got one charm that allows me to throw 2 extra. My all my ghost weapons deal extra damage. So I'm to the point now I can throw out my kunai and kill 5 people at once.
Jesus, that is very OP.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I've got armor that does ghost weapon buffs. And one thing I think we should touch on, we did talk about there's the samurai and then the ghost way. And they don't tell you that there is a I wouldn't say a punishment system for doing things the ghost way, but it does have an effect on gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
It's small, but it's just the weather.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing that I only found out through like Reddit or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably the same place I did maybe a Polygon article, but yeah, so it's been really crappy weather through most of my game.
It's funny because the actual gameplay is easier if you play as Ghost. Obviously, I mean, sneaking up on people and assassinating them is much easier than standing face to face and trying to parry their attacks and attack them and stuff like that. And in turn, it makes the game not harder. Like, it's shitty weather doesn't make it harder, but it's almost less enjoyable. And you also get the stigma attached to fighting as a Ghost player. There's a few scenes where it cuts to your captive uncle, and he's talking to the Khan, and the Khan's telling him, I hear rumors that your nephew is going astray and stuff like that. And he says, if he ever does that, I'll abandon him, or whatever the words are. But you get the sense that if anyone catches wind that this is the way that he's fighting, it's not going to be good for him. And the locals that you save, they think you're like a demon or something because they've never seen anyone fight like that. And it's interesting to see that duality.
Yeah, I like the duality of it. Um, it's certainly a main theme in the game. I can tell you it continues into Act Two. Especially the reflection on what it means to be a samurai, because your uncle becomes a bigger part of the game as it progresses, and so he's trying to wield his influence on you. But then you've also got people like Sensei Ishikawa teaching you the way of the bow, which, depending on how it's used, can be honorable or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I generally tend to go less honorable. I like shooting people with poison arrows and things like that. We got a question: does the bad weather affect the guiding wind? No, it just blows harder in the correct direction.
Yeah, both harder. You'll have some rain, stuff like that. It won't be nice and sunny.
Yeah. Sometimes it helps. You can just follow leaves in the air.
Yeah. Yep.
But I have noticed, if there's a big village, if you just walk straight in there and start slaughtering people, the sun will be shining pretty soon.
Right.
So that's seems weird.
Yep. Yeah, that is funny.
But I do enjoy, like I said, just the so many different ways to do this combat. And like I said, everything in your arsenal is usable. And every time you get something new, it's really is a brand new way to approach the same situation. I won't say the game is mundane, but the situation that you come up on is you've got to kill a lot of Mongols.
Yes. The situations are basically the same throughout. There's a village or there's some sort of structure that's full of Mongols and you have to kill them all.
Right. But you can get so creative. I don't know if you use archery much, but I try and take advantage of, especially if I see beehives. Those are great.
Yep.
You can blow up carts sometimes. I just shoot a cart, and if it blows up, that's great. Another thing we haven't really mentioned. Well, I guess you haven't seen it since Act Two's not quite there for you. And this is something that Red Dead did really well. In Act Two, and I assume it's going to do it in Act Three, it introduces more enemies. So you kind of meet this enemy or enemies at the end of Act One, and then you spend Act Two fighting them and the Mongols. And they're, like any other game, they're a little harder. They'll block your attacks a little more. They'll throw a few more unblockable attacks. So it adds internal strife too. So you're not only fighting Mongols, you're fighting bandits and other fairly powerful Japanese people.
Sure.
Who are really just siding with the Mongols to survive.
Right.
And and that's something else I think this game touches on really well is war. How people can be ravaged by war, and the toll it just takes, especially on a small island.
Yeah, absolutely. With people that are just trying to survive, they're not warriors like your character. These are just normal people, and when push comes to shove, they're going to side with the people that aren't going to kill them. And I see that a little bit with the Straw Hat Ronin, where they don't have any food, and Jin is over here trying to recruit them to go save his uncle, and these people are like, we don't even have anything to eat. And so you have to help them out and basically convince them that, this is something that has to be done and we're going to take care of you. But seeing that struggle is very interesting, because in most games you're the hero and everyone loves you and it just all kind of goes as it should. But this is like, I don't know if we can do this for you. And you see that some people choose to go with the Mongols, and it's interesting to see that. I like the aspect of not everyone is your friend just because you're the hero.
All right, we got a comment: World War II all over.
11?
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to say it, but but yeah, well, this takes place in 1274 Japan.
Yeah. Several hundred years before that.
Right, but the samurai way, the Japanese, we're still very much instilled in the Japanese in World War II.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, probably still today. I don't know enough about Japanese culture, and I don't think this game necessarily helps me understand it. I don't know uh, how much of it is true. I haven't looked into that. I don't know if the Mongols did try and invade Japan. I assume they invaded every place else except the Americas.
They absolutely did. Yeah.
I don't know if it was Khotun Khan. I certainly know is it his cousin or his uncle Kublai Khan?
Yeah. I don't know the specifics of if those actual people are real.
Yeah,
But yeah, the Mongols definitely did try to invade Japan, and the samurai obviously were the force that was used to fight them off. And as far as everything that I have read, like Jin and all that stuff, there's no way to know if that's real or not. But the idea of samurais fighting Mongols off of the island of Tsushima is basically a true story, not down to the detail, but it's basically just a general storyline that is a possible thing that happened during that time. So, I mean, as far as we know, granted, I mean, no one was there, but as far as we know, this is something that could be plausible back then.
well, that's fine. Real or not, it's still a still a great story.
Yeah.
Obviously, the minor stories can't be true.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat knowing that this similarly could have happened, I suppose.
What Brandon is showing here is, if you notice, the ice was really moving in on the camera, and I don't know if that's just to show the aspect of the coldness of this mountain that you're on, or if that's an effect from playing as a ghost for so long. I guess we'll see as it goes on, but I would imagine that this game kind of throws stuff at you like that makes it a little bit more difficult if you play as a ghost. Because, like I said, the combat is so much easier if you play as the ghost, because it's a lot easier to kill someone from behind than to face them, and they get to defend themselves. So that's a nice way that they were able to balance everything, because I think a lot of players are going to just immediately go ghost because it's easier, and this kind of balances that out.
Oh, for sure. And the standoff, that makes it easier to go a little more samurai. I'll say they make that harder too. They start throwing in feints, sometimes multiple feints, so you can't be sure to go on the second or even third try sometimes.
Wow.
So I can only imagine it's going to get harder in Act 3, which is what I would expect, and I fully expect to pick up some other type of foe. So I'm fighting Mongols and two more types.
Right.
So I think I'm halfway. Well, I'm technically 32% through the game.
There you go.
Yeah. I've put in quite a bit of time though, but like I said, I take it slow. Once I get all the side missions done, first I get gear. The first thing you want to do, especially when you get into a new act, is new gear, new weapons are unlocked. So you want to go do the missions. They have the mythic tails.
Yeah.
And those are so awesome in Act 2. They might be my favorite little side quests to do. Now, some of them I've done one that took 2 hours.
Jesus.
Some of them can be incredibly long, or and sometimes you can just do them as you please. I think one involves clearing farmsteads, and there's like 6 of them.
Yeah.
So you can do it all at once or whatnot. But it's completely immersive. If anybody's thinking about buying it, I certainly recommend it if you have the cash and the spare time. It's not something you want to sit down and play for 10 to 15 minutes. It's you really want to sink a couple hours into it, and they say it's got a killer soundtrack. I have not really listened. I generally listen to records or something on Spotify while I play.
Mm-hmm.
Something very ambient and things like that, and with the scenery, it's real easy to get into the game.
Yeah. From what I can tell from the soundtrack, it's your standard samurai type soundtrack that you'd expect, which is great. But yeah, going back to your point about all the things to do, they did not skimp on the things to do. There is plenty of stuff to do. There's little side quests, of course, and one funny little aspect is that foxes will come across your path, and then if you follow them, they will lead you to specific. I think they call them fox dens.
Yeah.
And they just have gear in it or whatever that might be. And that's a pretty interesting aspect, that it's not just like, hey, look at this weird little thing. This is cool. You actually have to follow another animal to find a little piece of treasure, if you will.
Yeah. The little undiscovered locations. I'll sit down and sometimes play for an hour just chasing the little question marks on the map. And that's something I think they've done a good job with. But if you don't want to invest a lot of time in a session, you can. You could feasibly just go and kind of do these little itty bitty things. There's no combat. It's
Right.
just collecting gear or charms or any kind of buffs, things like that.
Yeah.
And they do a really good job, I will say. Having been through about half of Act 2, they release them incrementally, which I think is kind of nice. So it forces you to revisit some areas. So you may have visited a fox den in an area, but then after you complete a few more missions, then maybe a shrine or something is opened up.
Sure.
So like you said, there's more than enough to do. And I find if you play the main missions, you just kind of get through things real quick.
Yeah.
And you're missing the best part, really. I think it's all the little side missions that are kind of mini series, one of 2 or one of 9 for some of them. And Act 2 is chock full of some really good little personal stories that I really enjoy more than the main storyline, because the main storyline is, I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to go and you're going to kick some dude's ass.
Right.
But the real nuggets are the small stories in between.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely gave you enough to do where it's not just a slaughter fest. You're not just going from village to village, killing everyone and moving on. There's definitely little things that kind of break that monotony up and make it feel funner than just a hack 'em up type game, because the combat is a little bit mundane after a while, but at the same time, once you progress, you get a new ability or you get a new stance, and then that kind of makes it a little bit newer, which I like. They incrementally make it more and more unique. It's not just the same old crap throughout the whole game. Before we sign off, you were going to say something about you didn't like the outfits or something with the outfits.
Yeah, that has to be my number one issue with the game. You spend a lot of time, resources, getting all this gear, and the gear is really cool. They've got a lot of. I like that they mix up the buffs enough on them. Some give you health, some reduce damage, some increase melee damage, some increase arrow damage. All sorts, like you'd expect, different gear to give you. But they've also got masks and hats, which they don't add any buffs. They're just purely aesthetic. But one thing I find is when I go through, especially clearing a town or a farm or fort, something bigger, my needs evolve as I go through this little scenario. So at first, I want to wear armor that benefits archery. So I'll wear that Tadayori's armor or whatnot, and I'll do that from the rooftops so I can pick off enemies real quick.
Sure.
Then you when you drop down into combat, you would like to switch off to maybe your samurai armor, something that increases your melee damage or reduces damage taken, something like that. And one thing we haven't mentioned is you also get all these charms.
Mm-hmm.
So the charms are just buffs. So and your buffs change. So one thing I would like to see is excuse me.
Rookie mistake, Garth.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, Anyway, does anybody hear that but me? Okay.
Yeah, it's some other type of phone ring.
Oh, well. But I wish there were like outfit slots.
Yeah.
Because I can think of at least 3 I would need. One for my everyday running around, just the traveler's attire. It opens up the map more. It tells you where the artifacts are. Um, but then one for stealth, and then like a ghost outfit, a samurai outfit, and a traveler outfit. And I can go in and arrange my charms, my armor, my mask, my hat, and just switch between those 3 instead of changing out potentially 5 or 6 things with my charms and stuff like that. Because I mean, there's one charm that I think is indispensable, and it's the one that increases the amount of supplies you pick up.
Mm-hmm.
I just leave that equipped all the time.
Right.
It doesn't do me any good in combat, but I don't want to have to switch it out for something that gives me a 50% boost to or a boost to damage when I'm 50% dead or something like that.
Right. And I think that's something that they could have stolen from Red Dead. You could store different outfits on your horse in Red Dead. And of course, on that game, it's basically just aesthetic. But in this game, you could do something like that where your horse could store some things like that. And maybe if they wanted to make it where you had to go to your horse to change to one of your preset outfits, then you could do that. And you could do that before you go into the next stage of combat or whatever. That would be great. Because I think like you were saying, that the specific buffs on certain outfits do good for the rest of that little level of combat. Like you said, if you're doing archery at the beginning, great. But then once you move into sword fighting, it's worthless. And you could change it, but like you said, you'd have to go in and change every little thing. And it's just not as intuitive as quick selecting a new outfit.
Right. So when I'm doing the exploring, like any open world game, you're going to run into pockets of enemies, bandits or whatnot. Most of the time I end up killing them just in my traveler's attire, which gives me no buffs, no protection. They're easy enough to handle, especially at a distance or something like that. But the buffs are cool. Sometimes they allow you to do some really neat things. Like I said, face more standoff enemies, throw more kunai. So the ability to be able to change it, I've got a great idea. The photo mode, which it's cool. Take that button and let you switch between your preset outfits. Photo mode, make that something where you hit the touchpad, something like that. I like the integration of the touchpad, how they've used the gestures. That's unique. That's something I'm not quite used to. So I will say they've made very good use of the controller.
Oh yeah,
all its possible combinations.
Yeah, definitely. They made it intuitive too, like we said earlier with changing of the stances and stuff. And yeah, the touchpad is very intuitive, and it's really easy to use for the guiding wind and to put your sword away. It's really smart that they use that touchpad in a very easy way. So all in all, I think Ghost of Tsushima is a very good game. Probably the top tier of PlayStation exclusives. And it's, as far as we can tell, the last exclusive for PlayStation 4. And this whole generation has been full of very good PlayStation exclusives. And this is right up there with the rest of them. And we're talking God of War, I can't remember, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man. There's been a ton of exclusive PlayStation games that really killed it this year. Yeah, Detroit Become Human.
Oh, that was an amazing game.
Yeah, and I think this one's right up there with them.
I'll say I enjoy this one more than God of War. I'm also playing Spider-Man a little bit now. I found a deal on it, got it real cheap. If anybody out there's played the Spider-Man, I think this is the combat and the game controls are more intuitive.
Oh yeah.
Than Spider-Man. Spider-Man, what little I've played, I just
It's
think
okay.
the controls are a little clunky.
Yeah. Brandon and I both played it, and we both kind of just kind of said it was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Are any other games coming out that you can think of that you're excited for?
I'm just waiting on Cyberpunk.
Yeah, man, have we been waiting for that one? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I had a pre-order for it and it got canceled. Because shit, it was supposed to come out in like April, and then it got pushed back to September. Now I think it's November. So I need to do some research. I've word on the street is that if you buy a PS4 version, they'll upgrade it to a PS5 version for free when and if you get a PS5. There may be a time limit on that, like you have to get it within 6 months. I don't know. But it's certainly pushing me heavily towards getting a PS5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope Cyberpunk doesn't turn into one of those games that we've been waiting for and the hype has been building. And then just because our hype is so high for it that it can't meet those expectations, because God, I'm so ready for that game. And we've been for almost a year now.
Right. And one of the latest rumors I heard, and it's been a while back, but it was modifiable genitalia. So pretty stoked.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Make a robot.
I don't know. I'm just razor cock. That's what I'm going for. Razor cock.
There you go. One before that I'm excited for is the remake of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yes,
that'll be fun. That'll be a good dose of nostalgia.
I'm almost as excited for the soundtrack that I'm expecting to accompany it. So have they released the soundtrack yet?
I think they've released at least a little bit of it. I can Google that later, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that they released some of the tracks. I don't think they'll be able to get everybody because licensing and whatever.
Right. For some reason in my head, I'm thinking they got Run the Jewels to maybe do a song, because I think they're going to try and do newer stuff too.
Sure.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. My son is going to hate me just bugging him. Hey, look at this. I can do a kickflip. Check this out. Yeah, no, he's I'm going to wear him out on it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, people that are around our age grew up playing that game. Even if you never were into skateboarding, we all played that game. Oh yeah, here's some of the tracks. Suicidal Tendencies, Anthrax. Yeah, those are definitely bands that would have been in the old school game, and I saw a few new ones there too.
Yeah, is that the new stuff?
Yeah, as far as I can tell.
Okay. Papa Roach.
This might be a mix of both old and new tracks, but yeah, that's one thing that the Tony Hawk series killed every iteration of their game was their soundtrack. Even in the not old, but in the older games, like the I guess they're more recent. I don't know why I'm saying older, but the games farther down the road kind of started to suck. Their soundtracks were still very good.
Oh yeah. Man, in the 90s, really soundtracks for everything were a big deal. I don't think it's like that anymore. I not that I keep up with movie soundtracks these days, but I don't think they're putting out bangers like the Crow soundtrack and Spawn. No. Yep. I think shit I liked.
Yeah, I remember playing Gran Turismo 2, and that is a racing game, and it had a fucking killer soundtrack, and it blew me away.
Yeah, even the Grand Theft Auto games, the radio stations and just the humor in those was great. But yeah, music, except for the GTA series, I don't think music's as big a part of major video games as it used to be.
No, not at all. I think it's not even an afterthought. It's just there. I mean, there's some games like Halo, for example, has a very distinct theme song, and then it has that style of music that plays through the levels that kind of you can kind of remember. But a soundtrack, as we're calling it, is not a thing in most games these days.
No.
And
that
the
sucks.
games that do have it, like Madden and NBA 2K, they just play the hits. They play top 40, whatever is possible.
Yeah, it's not anything that I don't know that I would get excited about. There's no rock or punk or even a little metal mixed in. It's just everyday bullshit.
Yep. Well, thanks for joining us, Garth. I'm sure we'll have you on for whatever's next that we are into. Maybe for some Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I can't think of anything else that's coming out before that. So,
no. When does that come out?
I thought it was sometime around September.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully I'll be I should be pretty close to done with this one by then, and that'll carry us into Cyberpunk.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait for that. So yeah, if you haven't tried Ghost of Tsushima and you own a PS4, I can't recommend it enough, especially if you like samurai type games. If you like Assassin's Creed, it's great. You'll love it. And tune in next time whenever we review a video game that we both enjoy. We're going to try to do as many as we can. And of course, don't forget to check us out on our regularly scheduled Monday shows at 7 Eastern. Brandon and I, and every now and then Justin comes on and we talk the latest sports news. And if you're a local to the East Tennessee area, Brandon and Justin have been doing a little series with the Elizabethan Cyclones, who are the state champs, and they're really good kids, and they all seem very level-headed. They have obviously a great amount of talent, and it's been exciting to listen to them talk about what it's like to be almost a hometown superstar by your sophomore year of high school. It's pretty cool because that part of the world, as you know, of course, takes their high school football pretty seriously.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt the kids go to easily the best school in the area. As far as I would say, probably best education available, best students, probably best moral compass. In general, these are children you would want to start families with. Yeah, love Elizabethton.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, Science Hill sucks. Just want to say that. But yeah, no, man, those Elizabethton dudes are great. The town's great. The town's very proud of them. So I tell you what, I went to high school with Jason Witten.
Yeah.
And his I was 1 year ahead with his brother Sean Witten, and they didn't win the state title, and these kids did. So
yeah,
that's big time, especially for an area where football is taken so seriously, and there's a lot of good teams. Except Science Hill, they suck. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Cody is a big time fan of ours. And he's tuned in late. So buddy, you're going to have to catch the podcast. I think you'll enjoy this one. And to everyone else that's listening, please like, share, subscribe, do all that kind of fun stuff. We try to bring you content as often as we can. And I know if you're a big fan of our nerd side of the house, we definitely neglect that side. But that's just because few and far between is a game that comes out that all of us like and all of us really get into. So anytime that happens, we try to get in on it. There's been 0 movies released, so we can't really do a movie episode, which sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, but as that stuff comes out, we definitely try to cover that. And it just so happens that there's sports news damn near every day, so we can cover that pretty easily on the weekly basis. So other than that, we'll catch everyone on our regular show. And again, thanks, Garth, for coming on, and can't wait to do one of these again with you.
No, thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
I'll say this.